We'll do a review in Likutei Sichos in Chelik Lamed Beis. That's volume 32. This is the sicha for the Parshas Tzav. A very intricate, detailed, lomdische sicha, scholarly sicha. And the Rebbe discusses the issue, what was the status of Moshe Rabbeinu when he served in the Mishkan during the 7 days of the Miluyim, uh, before, later, was he a Kohen Gadol, not a Kohen Gadol? The Gemara discusses this in Zvachim. And there's a whole discussion about what is Rashi's opinion. And in the beginning, the Rebbe leans that Rashi seems to say that he was not really a Kohen. But then the Rebbe proves that we have to say that he was a Kohen. And the Rebbe finally makes a distinction, and he says that Moshe had a different level of a Kehunah as part of his general going to the Mishkan, talking and receiving instructions from Hashem as a place of meeting, as an Ohel Moed. As a consequence, he was also a Kohen. And because of that, that may have not required him to have the full qualifications of a Kohen to wear the 8 garments, and he could have just gone in with this choluk lovan. As we'll see, it's like I said, it's a lot of details, and we'll take it step by step. Tzav, Aleph, the parsha seinu al haposik. So first, the Rebbe brings down in our parsha on the verse, it says Vayakter hamizbecha. This is talking about the 7 days of inauguration that Moshe Rabbeinu burnt the korban, the parts of the korban hamizbecha on the mizbeach. So why was Moshe Rabbeinu doing this work? Kosev Rashi, so Rashi writes, Moshe shimesh kol shivas yemei hamiluyim b'choluk lovan. That Moshe served during all the 7 days of inauguration. He served with a choluk lovan, with a white shirt, the ksoines bat kodesh, the shirt. Now, a kohen needs 4. A Kohen Gadol needs 8 garments that they wear. So, if we're saying that Moshe Rabbeinu served in the capacity as a Kohen or a Kohen Gadol, why would he only wear a choluk love, and why was it only required? What happened to the other 4 garments, and what happened to the other 8 garments if he's a Kohen Gadol? V'hinei lefi pshutei Kavonas Rashi lefarish, as we learn it simply, Rashi is trying to explain Inyan Asiyas Moshe Kol Avodas Halolu. What was the idea of Moshe doing these services? Why was Moshe doing the services? Umevayed, and Rashi explains, Shazeu lefi shekol shivas yimei hamiluyim shimesh bekehunah. Because the entire 7 days of inauguration, why did Moshe Rabbeinu do it? Because he was served as a Kohen. So the Rashi doesn't say Shimesh kol shivas yimei hamiluyim as a Kohen. He just tells you that he wore a choluk lova. But what Rashi is really trying to tell you, Shimesh, that he was the Kohen. He was the Kohen. He was the Kohen. He was the Kohen God. He did the services. As Mefarshim want to say that this is what Rashi wants to say. What business did Moshe Rabbeinu have of offering on the Mizbeach, burning the Korbanos? It is because he was a Kohen, Shimesh b'choluk lov. But in that case, we don't understand, why does Rashi say the secondary part with what he served, that it was b'choluk lov and a white shirt, a white tunic? Why doesn't Rashi say that he was a Kohen? But according to this, we need explanation. Lama mefarish rakes haprat. Why does Rashi only detail the specific, detail hatofel, which is secondary? Be'ezer begodim shimesh. It says what garments did he serve with? He was a kohen. Rashi mentions he served with the choluk lava. But why ve'ene maskir gufu klal ha'inyan? Because Rashi doesn't mention the body, the general idea, shekol zayin hayomim shimesh b'kehunah, that all the seventh day he served in as a kohen. Rashi just said with what he served. The secondary doesn't say that he served as a kohen. That's actually the language in Teres Kohanim. K'di'isu b'Teres Kohanim. Over there it says, Kol Shivas Yemei HaMeluyim Hoya Moshe Mishamish B'Kehunah Gedola, that the entire 7 days of inauguration, Moshe would served as a Kohen Gadol. So why does Rashi not say that Moshe Rabbeinu served as a Kohen Gadol like in Teres Kohanim? Just says that Moshe Rabbeinu served with a white choluk. It doesn't say that he was a Kohen Gadol. It just says with what he served. Now, where do we know this? That is where he served with. That he served with a choluk loven. That's what he wore. That's also based on a Gemara, but that's based on a Gemara, which is the assumption to answer another question. The Gemara wants to know, what did Moshe Rabbeinu serve at the time? And the Gemara says it was choluk loven, but here we're trying to find out that Moshe was a servant, that he became a kohen, that he was a kohen at the time. Prat zeh sheshimesh b'choluk loven, this detail that he did serve with this white choluk, huva b'gemara liyashiv shayla acheres. That the Gemara brings down to answer, to settle another question. The Gemara wants to know, what with what did Moshe Rabbeinu serve during the 7 days of inauguration? The answer is it was a white shirt. But here we're not trying to figure out what did Moshe Rabbeinu serve. Here we're trying to figure out, why did Moshe Rabbeinu burn Vayakter HaMizbecha? So Rashi should say that he was a kohen. But it would seem that the main intent of Rashi is to explain etzem hadovar, the idea itself, that Moshe Rabbeinu did all the services in the Mishkan during the 7 days of inauguration. So Vayakter HaMizbecha and all the other work that was done in the Mishkan during the 7 days of the Miluim, Moshe Rabbeinu is one that did it. So Rashi should have said that he served as a kohen during those days. And Rashi only says, no, that he served with a white shirt, which the Gemara uses to answer on a question, what did he serve with? Well, what about the garments? The Gemara says he didn't have the garments. He had a white shirt. But in the Rashi, we want to say first that he served as a kohen. Rashi doesn't say that. Okay, so now the Rebbe wants to say, maybe Taka, that Moshe Rabbeinu, Rashi's view is that Moshe Rabbeinu Taka was not a Kohen Gadol, and it was not a Kohen, but Moshe Rabbeinu just served because the Eibishter told him at that time to train the Kohanim, so he did the service, but he wasn't a Kohen. So Rashi doesn't want to say that he served as a Kohen because that wasn't the case. Why did what's the reason that Rashi changed from the language of the Teres Kohanim, which says that Kol Shivas Yemei HaMeluyim Hoya Moshe Mishamish B'Kehunah Gedola, that because that Moshe Rabbeinu served as a Kohen Gadol. And Rashi writes, no, because of Shimesh B'Choluk Lovan, that he served in a white shirt. and not as a Kohen Gadol, which would require all the all the different the begodim, the Shemini begodim. And hulefisha ledas Rashi b'pirusha al Torah l'shemesh Moshe b'ter Kohen. Because according to Rashi's interpretation on the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu did not serve as a Kohen. Even during the 7 days of inauguration, while he was training them. So while he did the service, but the service was not as a Kohen. The entire service that Moshe Rabbeinu performed during the 7 days of the Miluyim was as a temporary instruction from Hashem, based on Hashem's command. So he served and he did it, but he wasn't a Kohen. So Rashi doesn't want to say that he served as a Kohen because he wasn't a Kohen. He just did the service because Hashem told him. What did he serve with? He served with the Cholok Loven because that's what the Gemara says that's what he served with. And the Rebbe explains this now. You can say either that Moshe Rabbeinu became or served as a Kohen, or you can say he did the service, but he wasn't really a Kohen. He just did the service, but it didn't get the status of a Kohen. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu served during the 7 days of the Miluyim, yesh lefarish b'shnei fanim, we can interpret it in two ways. Aleph, number one, we can say shebezayin yemei hamiluyim hoye Moshe Kohen or Gadol even, that during the 7 days of Miluyim, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen. It was maybe a Kohen Gadol even. He got the status of a Kohen. He was a Kohen then. Elo, but the instruction of Hashem, based on the command of Hashem, he did not serve with the garment of the Kehunah Gedolah. Ki'im bebeged miyuchad lovan. He had a special garment that he served, which was a beged lovan. That was a special instruction for Hashem. So basically, it was a Kohen Gadol, or a Kohen Gadol. The Rebbe keeps it interchangeable between Kohen Gadol because there's two ways to learn it. Either he was served as a Kohen Gadol, but either way. But he did not wear the garments because Hashem said not to wear, that a cholok is enough. He doesn't have to wear the garments. But he was essentially a Kohen. Number two, it did not have the status, it did not have the definition of Kehunah at all. It was just a temporary instruction for Moshe Rabbeinu to go ahead and do the work, but he's not a Kohen. He never got the status of a Kohen. So maybe that's the reason why Rashi just says that he would call a klov and not like the Teres Kahanim. And the Rebbe says, let's examine the Rashi on the Chumash. We will see that Rashi actually holds that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen. It seems like now the Rebbe is going to bring evidence that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen. So the Rebbe reads like this: let's figure out what is Rashi's opinion in Rashi's commentary on the Torah. And the question is, what we're trying to figure out, Hashimesh Moshe b'Kehunah b'chlal. Did Moshe serve as a Kohen at all? So let's look at the Rashi. Hine b'pirushe al ha-Torah hevi b'parshas Shmois al ha-posuk v'yicharav. Rashi in the Chumash brings down in his commentary on the Torah, when the Eibishter was trying to push Moshe Rabbeinu to go and become his shaliach, to take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim, to go to Paro and to talk to him, and Moshe kept on refusing, until the pasuk says, "Vayicharav," the Hashem got angry. In the Parshas Shmois, pasuk Vayicharav, Hashem got angry. What happens when Hashem gets angry? So Rashi quotes over there in his commentary two opinions. So Rashi like this: Rabbi Shua ben Korcha Omer, Rabbi Shua ben Korcha, his view is Kol charein avshe b'Torah nemar b'Yerushim. Wherever we find the Torah says, and his anger flared, Hashem got angry. So then there's some mark, something happens, something bad happens because of that Yicharav. V'zeh lo nemar b'Yerushim. But over here we don't find any mark. Nothing happens to Moshe Rabbeinu, and everything keeps on going well. He learns, according to Reb Shub and Korcha, there was no mark left from this anger of Yichar Af. The Eibishter's anger on Moshe did not cause any harm. This is an exception. That's the opinion of Rabbi Shub and Korcha. Rabbi Yossi says, no, that's not true. He says this also left a mark. He said that because of Moshe Rabbeinu getting the anger of Hashem, he lost the Kehunah and Aaron became the Kohen. It was originally stated for Moshe to be the Kohen, for Aaron to be the Levi, but he lost it, says Rabbi Yossi. Amalei Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, Abezu Nemer B'Roshim. Here too, it's written, we see a mark over here, the Torah. Because the Torah tells to Moshe Rabbeinu, Haloi Aaron Achicha HaLevi. What does the pasuk mean? Aaron Achicha the Levi. He will go with you and he'll be with you. The pasuk continues there. But why is the Eibishter telling him Aaron Achicha the Levi? So Rashi brings down from Rabbi Yossi, Shahoya Osid Liyis Levi. He was destined to be a Levi. V'loi Kohen, not a Kohen. V'haKehunah Yisoim Elotzis Mimcha. I was saying that you are going to be the Kehunah. The Kehunah is going to come from you, from Moshe. But Ma'ata now, because you refused and Hashem got angry, Vayicharav, Lo Yiyakeh. It's not going to be so. You're not going to be the Kohen. Elo, Hu Yiyakohen, Va'ata HaLevi. He's going to be the Kohen, but you're going to be a Levi. Shenemar, U'Moshe Isha Likim, Bonov Yikoru Hashem Hashem HaLevi. Moshe, the Isha Likim, his children are Levim. They're not Kohanim. This is Divrei Yomim Aleph. They are part of the tribe of Levi. So here we see very clearly that Rabbi said that there was a mark in the pasuk. Nemar. This is a mark that we can see that he loved. When it says Aaron Achicha Levi, he's no longer a Levi. Now he's the Kohen, and you are. Moshe is the Levi. That's the Charanav. That's how Rashi teaches over there. Based on this, Lifibeis Hadeyes Lahoya Moshe Kohen. So according to both opinion that Rashi brings down, Moshe was not a Kohen. Why? Because the Rebbe Yeshua ben Korcha, the first opinion, said nothing happened, means that he was never destined to be a Kohen in the first place. Rebbe Yeshua ben Korcha mi kora loy hoya osid liyis Kohen. To begin with, he was not destined to be a Kohen. And because he was not destined to be a Kohen, there was no mark over here because nothing happened. He didn't lose anything over here, according to Rebbe Yeshua ben Korcha. We can't say this Vayicharav, Hashem get angry, Moshe make a Rishim. He says they didn't leave a Rishim. If we should say that he was supposed to be a Kohen in any form, so how could we say that it didn't leave a? Why doesn't he say he left a Rishim? Maybe he lost his Kehunah. It means, according to Rebbe Yeshua ben Korcha, Moshe was never meant to be a Kohen. And according to Rebbe Yossi, if the Kehunah was supposed to go out from Moshe, it was taken from him. So basically, because of Moshe's refusal, he lost out. He's not a Kohen either way. Oh, so since Rashi brings down these two opinions before, and it says clearly that Moshe was not a Kohen, so Rashi doesn't think that he was a Kohen. He served over here. It's like the second way that the Rebbe brought down. The Eibishter told him to serve, and he served in a Chaluk Lovan as a Zar, as an ordinary, as a Yisrael, as a Levi. V'lochein lekosav Rashi kan shekol shivas shemei miluim shemesh Moshe bekuna gedola. And that's why Rashi doesn't write here that during the whole 7 days of Miluyim, Moshe served in the Kuna Gedola. Kiledas Rashi loy hoya shemushe begeder the Kuna Gedola. Because according to Rashi's view, that Moshe Rabbeinu served was not a defined as a Kehunah Gedola, correct? Kuna Gedola. It was not Kuna Gedola. It was not a Kohen at all. Kimarosho, it was a temporary directive from Hashem. B'terech shliach Hashem, he became an agent of Hashem. L'chanech esanu v'bonov l'avodas hamishkan, to train Aaron and his son to serve in the of the Mishkan, not as a Kohen. But the Eibshter told him, go train them. But he was not a Kohen because Rashi said before, according to Rabbi Shimon, Korach was never a Kohen. According to Rabbi Yossi, he lost his Kehunah. So therefore he was not a Kohen. That's the way it seems that to look in the Rashi. And the Rebbe is going to say even more. There's another Rashi which seems also to clearly have evidence that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen. But like we'll see, the Rebbe will turn it around and say, no, that according to Rashi, also in the Gemara, also in Chumash, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen, as we will see later on. But first, in his base, the Rebbe is going to try to prove that, according to Rashi, Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen. So now that we are saying that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen, we can understand a Rashi, which seems a little bit perplexing. Let's look inside. Base. Alpizeh Yuvam Bepashtus. Now we can understand very simply Mashe Beparshas Emer al Apostle. In Parshas Emer, the verse talks over there about a Kohen who has a mum. Of course, he cannot serve, but the Pasuk says that Lechem Elikov, the bread of God, which means the holy food that the Kohen eats, and it says in the pasuk two things: Mikoche hakodoshim umin hakodoshim, both from the holy of holiest, the kochi kochim, and also min hakochim from the kochim kalim yochal. As we'll see, why is there two kochi kodoshim and kochim yochal? Pirush Rashi. Rashi says umin hakodoshim yochal. So what are we also saying that the Balmum Kohen can eat? The Kochim Kalim. And Rashi asked the question, since V'im Nemru Kocha Kadoshim, Lomu Nemru Kochi Kalim, if the Pasuk already says that they can eat Kocha Kadoshim, so why does the Pasuk have to follow that they can also eat Kochim Kalim? Kochim means Kochim Kalim. V'im Nemru Kocha Kadoshim, Lomu Nemru Kochim Kalim. So why have to be said Kochim Kalim that a Balmum can eat from the Kochim Kalim? And the Gemara says no. Rashi says no. That we would not know because you may think that Kochim Kadoshim, the Balmum Kohen, can eat, but not Kochim Kalim. Why? How could it be? But aren't Kochim Kalim less? So the Gemara says, so the Rashi brings down, Im loy nemar, had it not been written, Hayise Omer, B'kocha kadoshim yochal balmum. By kocha kadoshim, a balmum can eat. Why? Shemotzinu shehutru lezar. Because you find that the kocha kadoshim have been permitted to a non-kohen, azar. Where did we see? She'ochal Moshe b'sar hamiluim chulu. Moshe ate the b'sar hamiluim. So Rashi says Moshe was a zar, he ate the b'sar hamiluim chulu, and therefore maybe a balmum can eat kochim kadoshim, just like a zar eats kochim kadoshim, but we don't find that he ate kochim kalim. Umesayim, Rashi concludes, kach mefurish b'zvachim, so it says the Gemara Zvachim. But when you look at the Gemara Zvachim, the Gemara is actually saying over there, according to the opinion or the Havamina, that on Rav, the Gemara says over there, and um, and because the Gemara says over there that hutru lazar would mean kohen god. Let's look inside. So the hiksha meforshim. So the meforshim asked the question on this Rashi. Madua nokat Rashi sheheter koche kadoshim lazar. There's two ways to translate the koche kadoshim that it was permitted to azar. Here we're translating it that to Moshe Rabbeinu was a azar, a non-kohen, and Moshe Rabbeinu ate from the el bsar hamiluim, from the bsar hamiluim. Means we find azar eats koche kochim. There's another interpretation. The conclusion of the Gemara there is actually that what it means, the Loshen Hutra Lezar, means, the quote there is Hutra Lezar, meaning when you are Makrib on a Bama, it's Lezar. We find that sometimes Koche Kodoshim are eaten by an Ankoyan when you're Makrib on a Bama, but not that they were eaten by Zar. Why does Rashi say that the Kohen Zar? It's only because according to Rashi, a Kohen God, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Zar. That's not an issue. Let's look inside. The Meforshim ask, Madu anokat Rashi. Sheheter koche kadoshim lezar hoyo bachilas Moshe b'zayin yimei hameluim. That allowance of koche kadoshim by Azar was through the eating of Moshe Rabbeinu in the 7 days of the Miluim. That's not really what the Gemara concludes over there, that was the Achil Azar. The Gemara has a different meaning. Achil Azar means in Abama. The Gemara is only saying, Haloi Mashekach Mefurish Bizvachim, when Rashi says in Zvachim. Hurak Lefi HaKazal Kadaitoch Shom Begemara. The Gemara thought that, the Gemara thinks that Hutro Lazar means Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Gemara asks a kasha on the opinion of Rav, Shemefarish Kein Braisa. The Gemara in this sort explains the Braisa. When the Braisa says Hutro Lazar, Bamum Shemotzinu Hutro Lazar, the Gemara thinks over there, what does it mean, Hutro Lazar? That Moshe Rabbeinu was eating the Koche Kadoshim. But that's only in the Braisa when the Gemara asks her, Makshim is Das Rav, and the Gemara over there asks on Rav's opinion, Shesvira Leish Moshe Rabbeinu Kohen Godel. V'choyle b'kochik shemayim hoyo, he holds, Rav, that Moshe was a Kohen Godel, and he would get a part in the Kochik Shemayim, and he brings the Pasuk Shneimar Eil HaMiluim LeMoshe Hoyo LeMono, that it was from the Eil HaMiluim Moshe was a portion. So that's what Rav holds, that Moshe Rabbeinu is a Kohen Gadol, and he took the Eil HaMiluim for Ramona. And the Gemara asks Akasha, so why does the Brisa say that Hutro Lazar, Moshe Rabbeinu was Nazar according to Rebbe? And what does the Gemara conclude? Our Rav Sheshes Tiritz, but Rav Sheshes answered no. The answer that the Gemara asks a question from this Brisa. The Gemara interprets that Hutra Lazar doesn't mean Moshe Rabbeinu, so it's not a question that we're calling Moshe Rabbeinu Azar. It's not a question on Rav. Rav says he was a Kohen Gadol, because that's not what the Brisa meant when it says Hutra Lazar. Aber Rav Sheshes Tiritz, Shakavone b'koche kadosh mutazar hu l'mashu Hutra b'bama Lazar. That means that sometimes when you offer it on a bama, then a non-kohen can eat it. That means Hutra Lazar. We find that koche kochim. That's why the Balmum, you might think that he's allowed to eat koche kochim, because sometimes you find it by a bama for a zar. There is a koche kochim which would be would be eaten by a non-kohen. But since Rashi's opinion that the kohen Moshe Rabbeinu is Bechlal always a zar, so there's no point in. It's obvious to Rashi that it was a zar, and the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu ate it is a simon. We can touch the zar means a non-kohen that Moshe Rabbeinu ate it. El Shadas Rashi he, but Rashi's opinion is the Zesh Shimish Moshe B'Zayim HaMeluim, that the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu served it in the 7 days of inauguration, lo yoyu mishum din Kehunah, that wasn't because of a Kehunah, not like Rab, elo inyan shel shimush bilvad. He was just serving there. Eibishter told him he wasn't a kohen. The fact that he did eat from the basar hamiluim, that's a fact. Next, that he did that, it's considered like a zara eichel. So that's why Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu ate it, and Rashi is not concerned with the Gemara. Then the Gemara it's only in the Havamina, which was a question on Rav. But the Rashi believes that that is the fact that you are. Moshe Rabbeinu was a zar, and he ate from the Kodesh Kadosh. And the Rebbe adds further, that Rashi goes. This is Rashi's view. The Gambi Pirusha L'Shas Rashi, that also in his commentary for the Gemara, Rashi holds Shaveidose Shel Moshe Bezayin Yimei HaMiluim, that the service of Moshe during the 7 days of Miluim, Eino Nechsheves Kishimush Bekehunah, is not considered, is not counted like serving as a Kehunah. That's what Rashi holds in the Gemara. And from that Rashi in the Gemara, it also comes down in the Rashi in the Chumash in Pirush Ala Torah that he was on. So the Rebbe goes now explaining the Gemara in Zvach. So the Rebbe is all pointing to the fact that the Rebbe said from Rashi in the Gemara, since Rashi brings down that Moshe was a zar, and in the Gemara Zvachim we don't have to say that Moshe was a zar. We can say that when the Brisa says there that Hutru Lizar, it means by a bama. That's what the Gemara concludes over there. Rashi doesn't say that, because according to Rashi, the Rebbe proved Moshe Rabbeinu was not a kohen; he was just serving. And the Rebbe brings it also now the Raya from Rashi's commentary in the Gemara, which seems a little bit difficult. Now, let's go through. The Gemara was quoted before from the Rashi. The Rebbe quoted the Gemara before in Rashi, but the Gemara is a little bit longer. Let's go back to the Gemara Zvachim Shom Masik. The Gemara concludes there, Kitanoi, that this is a machloikes of Tanoim im Moshe Koyin Hoya. We had the quote from Rav. Rav says that Moshe Rabbeinu was a Koyin Gadol, and the Gemara says there that this is actually a machloikes Tanoim im Moshe Koyin Hoya, whether Moshe had a status of a Koyin. And the Gemara brings down the same what we brought down from Rashi, that we quoted from the same Gemara earlier in Rashi. Vayicharaf Hashem b'Moshe. God's anger flared on Moshe. So Rabbi Shua ben Korcha Omer, Rabbi Shua ben Korcha says, Kol charen av shebetoira nemar b'Yerosham v'zel lo nemar b'Yerosham. Any time we're in the Torah we find there was an anger, the anger flared, a charen av. So it had some mark was left because of that anger. But when the Eibishter got angry with Moshe for refusing to go, and in his shlichus to go to Paray to freedom, and the Eibishter got angry, we don't find anything Aroshim. There is no mark there. This is the exception. So Moshe Rabbeinu didn't got the anger of Hashem, but nothing happened. This is the exception. Another opinion of Rav Shimon bar Yochai, he disagrees. Here also it left a mark. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, "Haloi arin achicha halevi." The Eibishter said, "Arin achicha halevi." What does this pasuk mean? The Eibishter was saying to Moshe, "Arin achicha was supposed to be a Levi, and you were supposed to be the Kohen. And now, because the charen af, because you were stubborn, you didn't want to listen to Hashem." So therefore, and there was a charen af, you lose the Kehunah. So therefore, Ani amarti ato kohen. I said, you, Moshe is a kohen. Vuhu and Aaron is Levi. Achshav, but now, who kohen? He's a kohen, v'ato Levi, you're a Levi. So that is a ratio, it's a mark. The Eibishter got charen af, the Eibishter got angry, and that anger left a Roshem that you lost your Kehunah to Aaron. Okay. Now we have another opinion over here. The Chachamim, they say, no, it wasn't that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a Kohen at all. It's not that he was never supposed to be a Kohen. It's not that he was taken away to Kuna. But he says Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen just for the days of inauguration. Moshe Rabbeinu only was a Kohen for the 7 days of inauguration. The 7 days alone, those 7 days he was a Kohen. Now, this clearly states, as we read the text, reads that according to the Chachamim, this was a Kohen on that time. Moshe Rabbeinu served as a Kohen. Okay, but then there's yet another opinion. Others say, Moshe remained a Kohen forever. The Kehunah only stopped from the seed of Moshe, which means Moshe's children weren't Kohanim, but Moshe remained a Kohen. He became a Kohen in the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, and he remained a Kohen for the rest of his life. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, and we have a pasuk to support it, that it was only his children that are not Kohanim. It says, Moshe ish ha'elikim, and Moshe, the godly man. This is a pasuk in Divrei Hayomim in Chronicles. It says, Bonov Yikroru Hashem Levi. His sons will be called in the name of Levi. Very clearly, not Moshe. Moshe himself is not called in the name of Levi. He's a Kohen. His sons will be called in the name of Levi. That implies, said the Hashem, that Moshe remained a Kohen. Another pasuk Vaymer. The other pasuk says, Moshe ve'Aaron b'Kohanov. Moshe and Aaron in the Kohen. It says clearly that Moshe was a Kohen together with Aaron. Ushmul b'Kodesh Shemai. Shmuel called the name of Hashem, but it says that Moshe is a Kohen. So the Yeshemrim say that Moshe Rabbeinu remained a Kohen forever. The Chachamim say that he was a Kohen only for the 7 days. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha and Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he wasn't a Kohen. Either he lost it or he was never a Kohen. And here we have a surprising language in Rashi. So who does Rebbe, the Rebbe who says that he was a Kohen Gadol, and the Gemara says it was like the Tanoi. So it almost seems like Rebbe should be able to go either like the Chachamim or like Rebbe, because the proof that Rebbe has that Moshe was a Kohen is the fact that he ate from the Ohel Moed, the Cholomonim Ohel Moed, that he ate from the Kochim of the Shivas Yimei means that's the evidence of his pasuk. That pasuk that took place by Kohen Gadol, by the Shivas Yimei. So we can actually say that Rav can technically hold either like the Chachamim, that he was a Kohen for the 7 days for the Yimei HaMiluyim. So then that's why he ate like a Kohen Gadol, or like Rebbe who says he remained a Kohen. But when you look in Rashi, Rashi says that Rebbe holds like the Hashem, not like the Chachamim. Why? About Pirush Rashi b'Dibra Maschil v'Yashemrim. Rashi says in the Dibra Maschil v'Yashemrim, Loi Posko Kehunah Elo Mizari, that the Kehunah only stopped from the seed of Moshe. Avol hu kol yom of Kohen hoya, but he all of his days remained a Kohen. And here Rashi says something very difficult to understand. V'Rav de Omar ki yesh emrim. Rav goes like the yesh emrim. Rav, who says that Moshe was a Kohen Gadol, he goes like the yesh emrim who say that he was a Kohen forever. Why? Why do we have to say he goes like the yesh emrim? The whole proof that Rav has that Moshe was a Kohen Gadol is because he ate from the Shivas HaMiluyim, who was Maktir, and he ate from the Moneh Ohel Miluyim. But so that was during the Shivas Yimei. Maybe it goes like the Chachamim. Why do we have to say it goes like Rebbe? Frag the Rebbe v'tzorich biur. We need to explanation this. Harechoch es Rav sheMoshe Rabbeinu Kohen Gadol v'choylek b'kodesh Shamayim. What is the proof, the evidence that Rav from Rav Where did Rav say that Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen Gadol and that he would get a part in the Kodesh Shemayim? He may hakos. So the pasuk says, "El hamiluim leMoshe hoya lemono." The el, the ram of the miluim, was a portion for Moshe that he ate from the korban. And when does it say? When did he eat from that korban? That was Shenem Rabbi Shiva Zimam Miluim, the 7 days of in the inauguration. The Shiva Zimam Miluim, that's where the pasuk says. Vim Kehunah, so lo mahut Rashi loimer. Why does Rashi need to say that Rav the Omar ki yesh emrim, that Rav goes like the yesh emrim, who say that he was a kohen forever? This Sviralisha kol yom avoy Moshe kohen, that Moshe remained a kohen forever. Haremotzi megam shesvirale kechacham. He can also say he goes like the chachamim. The loin is kain elu shiva yishimei hamiluim, that he was only a kohen for the 7 days of the miluim. Hainu, Sheba Zayin Ayomim, Kohen Gadol Hoyo, and those 7 days he was a Kohen Gadol. Ulefika Choyo Choylo, because Shemayim Meila Miluim, and that's why he took a part. He got a portion of the Kodesh Shemayim from the Eil HaMiluim, the ram of the Miluim. He was able to eat it because he was a Kohen. But who tells us that he was a Kohen forever? Why does it actually say that Rav holds like the Yeshemrim? And this is what the Rav said, that he was a kohen. It wasn't mean that he remained a kohen of ever like the Yeshemrim. Maybe it means that he was a kohen for the 7 days. But the Rebbe says, so the question is, why does Rashi say that the Rebbe holds like the Yeshemrim versus saying like goes like the Chacham? But the Rebbe explained, since we explained, there's no such a thing. If Moshe Rabbeinu was only serving at the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, then he wasn't a Kohen. He just served because it was instruction for Hashem. So therefore, Rav cannot say he was a Kohen Gadol, because according to the Chachamim, he wasn't really a Kohen. Wasn't really a Kohen, because if the Kehunah only lasted for those 7 days, that means it wasn't a Kohen. That only means that he served. That's what Rashi learns. Now, if you look at the Lashon of what the Chachamim say, they use the Lashon Leinis Kahin Moshe Kohen. The Rebbe says it's Takabis Ladoichik, but that's what the Rebbe says. Let's look inside. Achapi Anal Yesh Leimar, but based on the above, that there is no Kehunah for that Shiva Simam Elohim. It's only a level of shadus of serving. Yesh Leimar, we can say Shaladas Rashi, that according to Rashi's view, In Tim Tzoloimar the Leinis Kahin Moshe L'Shiva Simei HaMeluim. If you're going to find to say, if the case is that he was only for the 7 days, he was a Kohen, Bilvad Ki Chachomim, Harein Ze Geder Kehunah, that means that he's not a Kohen. Elohinya Shel Shimush, Behiro Shor Bilvad. It is just that he served as an instruction temporarily. And he just served it. But the Rebbe has a difficulty because the Loshen in the Chachomim, it says Niskahin. The Loshen Niskahin, Hushema Mushal. It's a borrowed name, meaning he's not really a Kohen, he's a servant. But usually who serves a Kohen, so we use Loshen Niskahin. There's a Derech Tzas. But still, that answers what Rashi. V'lochein lemotzi ukmi de Rav Svile kechacham. They cannot interpret that Rav goes like the Chachamim. Rav can't go like the Chachamim. Well, maybe by Rav it also means he just served. It wasn't a Kohen. No. Ki Rav haleibor omer sheMoshe Rabbeinu Kohen Gadol. He says clearly, it's not how he served. It's not Hashem Amushal. He says very clearly he was a Kohen Gadol. It doesn't say that he was just serving in Kehunah, similar. That's why we have to say Shesvira like Yesh Emrim. The Leposko Kehunah El Mizare Shel Moshe Avu Kol Yom of Koyoy. That it's only like the Yesh Emrim. That the Kehunah only stopped from Moshe Rabbeinu's children, but Moshe Rabbeinu himself was a Kohen all the time. That's why the Rav goes like the Yesh Emrim. Basically, you can't say a kohen for 7 days. That doesn't fit. If he serves only for 7 days, then he's a shamus. Because there's no such a thing as a kohen for a temporary. It's a shamish. That's what Rashi learns. And that's where Rashi says that it goes like Rebbe, not like the Chachamim. Because according to the Chachamim, he can't be a kohen gadol. He's only a kohen gadol if he go like Rebbe, that he remained a kohen for later on as well. Now, it's a little bit of a doichik, as the Rebbe says, because the Lashon says this kohen, but that's answers how come Rashi says that it goes like Rebbe, not the Chacham. And the Rebbe has another place that we can derive it from. It's also mashma in the Rashi Masechta Avodah Zarah, where Rashi seems to imply that he was not a kohen; he only served. We can also derive this from the Rashi's language in Masechta Avodah Zarah. The Gemara asks there, Bamesh Shimesh Moshe Kol Shivas Yimei HaMilui. The Gemara asks, what did Moshe Rabbeinu serve in the days of inauguration? That he served all this. What kind of garments did he wear? Now, how do we know? Maybe he wore the garments of the Kohen Gadol. The Gemara asks, what did he wear? And Rashi says, no. Because of Rashi, Rashi says, Loi nishtamish b'big dekuna. He did not use the big dekuna. Because why? Diksiv, because the pasuk says clearly, the osu b'siso big dekodesh la'aron achicha. Make the closing of Aron achicha v'hu hoyo zar etzlon. He was like a stranger, a non-kohen for these. He can't wear those garments. And then Rashi says, V'al pi hadibur shimish. By the word of Hashem, he served. Now, these words are pi hadibur shimish. So, v'loi huskiru begodim. And in the pasuk, there's no mention that he should put on the garment. So we're saying he served without the garment. The Eibishter told him to serve. So what is these words al pi hadibur? So Rashi says, the Rebbe learns like this. The melosh in Rashi, v'loi huskiru begodim. And Rashi says that begodim are not mentioned. Beloi begodim. Rashi doesn't say apia dibur shimish, without garment. Serving without garment means a kohen without garments. But Rashi says he's served, and there's no mention of begodim over here. Okay, but mashma the hoshal pia dibur shimish. When we're saying that he's served by the Eibishter's instruction, it's not just giving you the reason, oh, why was he allowed to do service? He didn't have the garments. Well, the Eibishter told him. But it's more than that. He's not saying that he's just doing it, but to derive it's not a kohen serving without begodim, but it's a non-kohen serving. That's my Kehunah. There was no definition of Kehunah over here. So the Rebbe says that if we should accept that Rashi holds that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a kohen, then the Rashi in Masechta Avodah Zarah makes sense. The Rashi in Masechta Zvachim, the Gemara there, also fits what he says, goes like Rabbi. And also the Rashi that in Rashi and Chumash and Parshas Emer, why Rashi says Hutru Lazardir. All of these things make sense based upon the idea that we're going to say that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a kohen during those 7 days. And that's why Rashi, the Rebbe started wrote the sicha when it says that he was just lavish b'choluk lov. Rashi didn't say that he served as a kohen. He was not a kohen. And only saying that he served b'choluk lov, but he wasn't together of Kehunah. So up till now, we were trying to prove that Rashi holds that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a kohen. But the Rebbe says in Rashi on the Chumash, it is very difficult to explain. We have clear evidence that Rashi learns that he was actually a kohen. Now the Rebbe brings three clear rayas from Rashi seemingly that Moshe was a kohen. Gimel. This is difficult to explain Rashi's view in his commentary on the Torah key. Aleph. Number one, the Parshas Tzav, in the portion of Tzav, B'tzivui al Devar Hatnufa de El Hamiluim. Over there, the command is to raise the El Hamiluim. The Rashi explains how is it done. Shneim asukim betnufa. When you raise the korban, there's both parties are occupied in raising. Habaylim v'hakoyin, the owners, the one who bring the korban, and the koyin. Okay, it said, how do both occupy? Koyin maniach yodei tachas yad habaylim. The koyin puts his hand under the hand of the owners. And umenif, and he raises. So the koyin raises the hand of the bailim together with the korban. Umenif. Ubazeh says Rashi clearly, in our case, the Elam Elohim, Hoya Arin Ubon of Bailim. They, Arin and his son, they were the owners of this korban. Moshe Kohen, Moshe was the Kohen. Rashi says clearly that Moshe was the Kohen who raised it with them. According to Rashi, Moshe was the Kohen. Rashi didn't say that Moshe was a Sir Shimesh, that he was a Kohen. Number one. Number two, so this Rashi says Moshe was a Kohen. Number two, the Parshas Pekudei, because of Rashi, in the Parshas Rashi writes, Yom Shmini L'Eluim, Hushvu Kulam L'Kehunah. They're all equal to Kehunah. V'targumoi, and the Targum, this is Rashi says, V'katshun Minei, and you will sanctify yourself from the kiddush. Moshe Rabbeinu sanctified his Yodov and Raglov together with them. So he says Moshe together with them. It's mashma that the Kehunah of Moshe was equal together with Aaron. Akol ponim b'shmini l'miluim. That pasuk is talking about the shmini l'miluim. But we see that Moshe Rabbeinu was actually a full kohen. That's what the pasuk says there. So we don't say that he just served. He's a kohen. Number three, Bepirush Rashi and Al Parshas Shmois. The Rashi in Parshas Shmois we brought down B'yina Machloikes the Rebbe Yeshua ben Korcha Rebbe Yossi. Im Eisei Charen Afos Arishim. Did that anger Charen leave an impression? So Mizeh Shehevi Rashi B'div Rebbe Yossi. Rashi says it did make an impression. So Rashi brings from what Rebbe Yossi said, Haraya. He says, Ma'akos bonov yikoru al shevet halevi. It says, so what was the impression? It was not the impression that he lost the Kehunah. As the Rebbe said before, what the Rebbe was bringing down from the Rashi. But the Rebbe now goes further. The Rebbe says, no, that the fact that he brings the Pasuk, what he lost here was not the Kehunah himself. His sons lost the Kehunah because he brings the Pasuk that it says that bonov Yikoru al Shevet Halevi. That means that only the sons. So mashma the kavanosi sheMoshe atzmoi hoyi koyin kol yimei chayu. So here it's mashma that Moshe remained a koyin all of his life. V'rak mizare shel Moshe poska Kehunah. So it's only the Kehunah stopped from the seed of Aaron, his children, but he remained always a koyin. So when it says his sons loved, but he remained always a kohen. So just like we said before, in the opinion of the Yesh Emrim. So the Rosh of the Charanaf is not Moshe. Moshe didn't lose anything. Moshe remained a kohen for the rest of his life because it's only the Bonov. But the Charanaf was that his Bonov lost out. So this is compelling evidence that Rashi learns that Moshe Rabbeinu was a kohen. And the Rebbe goes further. This is in the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. The Rebbe wants to say, Even Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, who says that there was no Roshim over here, seems like he was never a Kohen. The Rebbe says no, but maybe we can say like this: Ulai gam bedas Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha yesh lefarish. We can also go to Melchatchila nitno Kehunah rak loy bilvad v'loy lezari. So the difference between Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha and Rabbi Yossi said the punishment was that his children lost Kehunah, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says that to begin with, only his children uh, were not going to get the kuna. And according to this, we'll say Rabbi Shimon Korcha also holds that Moshe was a kohen. Not only Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Korcha also. Even though he said there's no Roshim, no Roshim means the same Roshim what Rabbi Yosef said. Rabbi Yosef says that his children lost out. According to Rabbi Shimon Korcha, the children were never supposed to be kohen, but it doesn't affect Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu himself was supposed to be a kohen and remained a kohen, and there was no charanah for that. But the Rebbe says, "Al chiddush godel hu ma'avli lefarish." This is a great chiddush. Should have said this if that's what Rashi means in Rabbi Shua ben Korcha, that there's no charan af. Not that he was never supposed to be a kohen and he never lost it, but to say that he always was a kohen and never lost it, but his kids didn't lose it because his kids were never supposed to be kohen. That should have said that. But in any event, that's why it's not considered the Resh Charanaf, because the children were never supposed to be Kohanim according to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, so there's no Reshim. But we'll say that Aaron was always a Kohen. I mean, Moshe was a Kohen and remained a Kohen. The Oid, the Rebbe says, but further, the Mefurish become a Kohen with the Medrash B'Shem. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, that it's explained in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, the Moshe Shimesh B'Kehunah Gedola Kol Mem Shana, that he served all 40 years. There's no contradiction because even though Rashi says no Rishim, because no Rishim means that his children didn't lose anything, but he remained a Kohen. And he was he was always, and he never lost it. Anyways, that's the side point. But inevitably, we see, according to Rabbi Yossi, anyways, and according to the different Rashis, Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen, so therefore it seems more the Lashitas Rashi b'Pshuta Shemikra Hoya Kohen. Rashi's review of Pshuta Shemikra was a Kohen. Umashe Kosov Rashi Moshe Shimas Kol Shivas Yimei Melum B'Choluk Lovan. Why does Rashi say that he served with a Choluk Lovan? Why didn't Rashi say he served as a Kohen? That was the Teres Kohenim Loshen that the Rebbe asked in the very beginning. And that's how the Rebbe started off by saying it's mashma that he served the Choluk Lovan because he couldn't, because he wasn't a Kohen. So why does Rashi say that? V'lochein lekosav b'kuna g'doylo ki l'daite kol lamed tes shana hoya Moshe Kohen Gadol. Because according to it wasn't just that, he was a Kohen Gadol all the time, like we said for Rabbi Yossi and even Rabbi Shimon Korcha, he was always a Kohen Gadol. Elo shebeshivas yimei hamiluyim shivash b'chiluk loven. There's not a chiddush over here that it was not like Aaron and his son that served with the garments of Kehunah. So the only difference wasn't a chiddush that he served the Kohen Gadol because he always was a Kohen Gadol. The only difference was that at that time he served now without the big day Kehunah. So Moshe was always a Kohen. He was a Kohen in the Shivas Yimei Meluim, was always a Kohen. But Moshe Rabbeinu didn't serve with the big Deloven. But the question becomes, why Takib? Why not serve with the big Deloven? The Rebbe is going to explain a whole deep insight now that Moshe Rabbeinu had two functions and he didn't need the big Kehunah in order for him, but he was still a Kohen, as the Rebbe will continue in Oiz Dalet. But according to this, we need to understand the other side. The garments of the Kehunah are not such an additional matter in a kohen. You can say a kohen, he could wear the garments, he can't wear the garment. No, the garments make him into a kohen. Rashi, but as Rashi says on the verse, they put him on the garments to make him a kohen, to sanctify him, to make a kohen to me. Through to bring him into the Kehunah through these garments, he becomes a kohen. It's an integral part of the Kehunah is to have the garments. The garments make him into a kohen. When we say according to halacha, when the garments is upon them, they're kun on them. If there were garments, if the kohanim is not on them, their kun is not on them. They're zorim. So since the garments are not an additional part, they are part and parcel of the Kehunah. So Moshe Rabbeinu as a kohen, v'zayin yimei hameluim. So Mela, the Rebbe says, on the 7 days of inauguration, the Mishkan was not yet complete. The Iker Hakamosi v'Havoida Boy Hoyu Mishmini leMeluim Rosh Chodesh Nisan Melech. The main, when we raised it as a permanent, and the Avoida started from the 8th day of Meluim, which is Rosh Chodesh Nisan and on. So then we can at least squeeze in and say, Sha'oz Gam Choluk Lovon, even just wearing this white shirt, Efsher Shu Beged Masim La Mishkan Da'oz, maybe it should be a fitting garment for the Mishkan at that time, what they needed for those 7 days, that was enough. But how could we possibly say Shekol Alama Tes Shona? That the entire 39 years, that he was a Kohen God without the garments of Kehunah. How could you say that? And actually, the Tosfos had Lemanda Omar Moshe Rabbeinu al Basholim Kohen God Lahoyev v'nishtamesh b'Kehunah Gedolah Memshona, and he served the Kehunah of his very year. So Loshen Kehunah Gedolah Mashma b'Ches b'Kodim Kohen Gadol. So he says that the Loshen Kehunah Gedolah Mashma, Tosfos says, like a Kohen Gadol. So Itaka did wear the 8 Kodim. But here Rashi says, on one hand, we're saying that he's a Kohen Gadol, that he's a Kohen. And on the other hand, he just wears a Choluk Lavan. How could he just wear a Choluk Lavan? Mela is Shivas Yimei Miluim. But what about the 39 years? If he was a Kohen all the time, how could he not have the serve without the Big Kehunah? And the Rebbe is going to explain the special function of Moshe Rabbeinu in the Beis Hamikdash and the function of the Beis Hamikdash, that it could be divided into 2 parts, into a place of meeting, which Moshe Rabbeinu had before already in his own tent, and it was transferred to the Ohel Moed, and then as a place of service. Let's look inside. Hey, v'yesh levayir zeh b'hagdim divrei HaTorah kohanim b'parshas Achrei, by first introducing the words of the Torah kohanim in the Parshas Achrei al Pasuk. The Pasuk says, Dabir el Arin Achicha Val Yove B'Choleis Al HaKodesh. This is a special command that the Eibishter says about the Malacha, the Avodas Yom Kippur, that the Kohen Gadol cannot come in whenever he wishes to the Ohel Moed. So he says, spoke to your brother. So the Torah Kohanim says that this excludes, Moshe Rabbeinu could go in whenever. Dabir el Arin Achicha Val Yove B'Choleis Al HaKodesh. Speak to Aaron, your brother shouldn't come in all to the Torah. So the Torah Kohanim says, Achicha Ba'al Yove. Your brother has the prohibition not to come. Ve'ein Moshe Ba'al Yove. Moshe does not have the not to come. Al Yove B'Choleis can't have the. What does it mean not to come in? Moshe Rabbeinu went in all the time. Pirush Ravid explains, Ve'ein Moshe Ba'al Yove B'Choleis, and Moshe is not included when the Eibishter says not to come in. This is only Aaron Achicha, not Moshe. Shara Moshe Tomadai Nichnas Lifnai V'Lifnim. Moshe would also go inside of the inside into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, l'shmoya dibur miben shnei haksuvim, to listen to the voice of Hashem, which came from amongst the two cherubs. V'lo motzino sheyitztarech Moshe lilbesh bigdei Kehunah, and we don't find that Moshe needed to put on the garments of Kehunah b'chdei likones lifnai v'lifnim l'shmoya dibur, in order to go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, to listen to the dibur. He didn't have to wear the garments of Kohen Gadol. The Rebbe deals with the Rashi. Rashi says that the Kohen would come out to the outside, but that's in the Aris. We have enough to deal with just with the sicha itself. So, how would Moshe Rabbeinu go in to the Chol Eis so he can go in? But the Zoyshah Aaron, he has to wear the garments. How would Moshe Rabbeinu go in? Rabbi was it. So we explained the explanation. The Mishkan Matzinu Shnei Inyonim. The Mishkan, we find two aspects. Aleph, Ba'amigdosh, Beis Hashem, that it's a Beis Hashem, Muchen Lias Makrivim Ba'akarbonis. It's a place ready to bring the offerings. Mokum Avedis HaKahanim, it's a place where the Kohanim work, serve. Beis, another thing you serve, V'na'adet L'choshom V'dibarti T'chom Ala Kaporis Me'ben Shnei HaKesuvim. I will meet with you there. I'll speak to you, to Moshe, from on top of the lid, from in between the two cherubs. Asher al Arna Edus, that lid which is on the cover, the box of the testimony with the luchas. As Kol Asher Tzava Yisrael Bnei Yisrael, everything that I tell you to do. Ohel Moed, that is the tent of meeting. That was a designated place to speak to Moshe. Place for karbonis, as place to speak to Moshe. The first aspect that was a novelty in the Mishkan, this whole idea, talking to Moshe is not something new. That was before. But what came about with creating the Mishkan, then they were commanded, make me a Migdosh. Lasis Mishkan a Migdosh Bais La Hashem, to make a home for Hashem. Not as it was beforehand. They would bring on a high place, every place they wanted, and that's how they would offer. But no, this was the Chadish that you have to bring it in the Mishkan, in the Migdosh that they built. But the second aspect, the meeting place, but the second aspect, the fact that I meet with you over there, it's a designated place to speak to Hashem. That took place yet before the Mishkan was erected. That was in the tent of Moshe. That was the meeting place. The pasuk says, Moshe took the tent, he pitched it outside of the camp, distant from the camp. They called it the tent of meeting. Anybody who seeked Hashem, wanted to know what Hashem wants, would go to the tent of meeting with Moshe Rabbeinu. And then and when Moshe came to the oil, to that oil, Yarad Amud Onan Vamud Pesach oil, the pillar of a cloud descended and stood at the entrance of the oil. V'dibra Moshe spoke to Moshe. And then it said, V'dibra Hashem al Moshe ponim al ponim. V'goyim Rebbe Shalom Ach. Hashem talked to him face to face. And then he went back to the camp. So V'hainu, which means the whole process, Ohel Moed, Ohel Mishkan. Before the Mishkan stood, there was already an Ohel Moed, but Moshe. Moshe's tent served as the Ohel Moed. Shaboya HaKadosh Baruch Hu medaber Moshe. That's where Hashem spoke with Moshe. Lamde Torah, teach him Torah. El Shadover Hazeh Nohag Meyoim HaKippurim Ad Shehukam HaMishkan. That was until from the time Yom Kippurim, when he came down from the mountain, until they put up the Mishkan on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. From Yom Kippurim to look on Mishkan, below Yosef. Umeshukam Mishkan, once the Mishkan was raised, Lo Nidbari Moed El Ohel Moed, the Rebbe talked to him on the Ohel Moed. So the one aspect came about when they built the Mishkan, but meeting with Hashem took place before, and that was done from the Ohel Moed of Moshe. What is the Moshe's aspect? Moshe passes the word of Hashem, the Torah to Din. He's always ready for the words of Hashem. So, as it relates to Moshe, what is the main purpose of the Mishkan? Ohel Moed. That's what it's an Ohel Moed. I meet with you there. That's what we can say. Just like as it was took place in the tent of Moshe. He didn't need any special garments to listen to whatever Hashem commands him. The same thing is known about the Mishkan. When he went in there to listen, to hear what Hashem says, they don't need special garments, either the garments of a kohen or the garment of a kohen gadol. Because this is what Moshe is always ready. He doesn't have to go start changing, putting on clothes. His job is to be there to give over the word of Hashem to the Yid. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu, he trained the Kohanim to serve in the Mishkan. And Moshe Rabbeinu also inaugurated the Mishkan, that it should be ready and fit to be anointed, did all the things with the Mishkan, mashma. Even the second aspect of the Mishkan, that it's a place of service, shaykh Moshe, it's connected to Moshe. But since he was preoccupied with the Shekhinah, he wasn't occupied in serving as a Kohen. His job was to be ready for Hashem. Okay, so now we have two aspects of the Mishkan, and we have Moshe Rabbeinu's aspect, which is the meeting place with Hashem, and that continued from his previous. He didn't have garments over there. He didn't need garments over here. But then Moshe Rabbeinu also served with in a level of service as he prepared them, trained them, educated them. So he was also part of the Kehunah as well. So the Rebbe says, so here we can come up with a distinction. Is this service, the serving of Kehunah, the avodah, the service of Moshe Mishkan, is it its own aspect? Or maybe this is a part of the other aspect of meeting that was by Moshe. And it's not its own separate thing. His service is an extension of his meeting with Hashem, or it's a separate. If this meeting place became an inseparable part of the Mishkan became inseparable from that, or we're going to say, since the whole concept of Ohel Moed, meeting with Hashem, and I meet you there, there was that idea was before the Mishkan was erased. Moshe stands. Ulidoch bebot mikdash rishon v'sheni nemar she'inyon mehuvanat l'chasham. And as far as the second and third base of mikdash over there, it doesn't say that they also have a meeting place over there. So shal yodam bod var havai lanovis, that through them the words of Hashem will come. We don't have that. Shebetanai hanevuah motzinu rak shu beretz Yisrael davke. That the condition of war means you got to be in Eretz Yisrael. But it's not limited to the Mikdash, the courtyard, the Kodesh Kadoshim. We don't find that limitation. And so we don't find in the Beis HaMikdash needing a Beis HaMikdash to hear the word of Hashem. And it's very clear in many prophets that they had prophecy outside of the Mikdash. So therefore, also in the Mishkan, there are two separate Gedorim. There is part of meeting Hashem, which was by the Mishkan, and there's part of the service of Hashem. And they never became an integral part of the service of Hashem, because it doesn't happen in the second or third Beis HaMikdash. It was there before the Mishkan. So that meeting is an additional, it's an add-on. It's not an integral part of the Mishkan. And therefore, once the Mishkan is serving of Hashem in it, and Ohel Moed, it's also a tent of meeting. That's where Moshe hears the word of Hashem to the. So based on this, we can say according to all opinions, Moshe Rabbeinu had the sanctity of a Kohen Gadol for all 40 years. And this, that we have a debate, a give and take, whether he was 40 years a Kohen Gadol. Was it like an independent, just a Kohen Gadol? Or this was part of Moshe as a recipient of the Torah of the Eibishter. He was also a Kohen Gadol, but it wasn't like something else, something in the separate. According to the Yesh Emrim, that Moshe was ever a Kohen and never stopped. So then he had the Kohen Gadol as an inyan by himself. He was a Kohen Gadol. V'lochein Rav Domer Moshe Rabbeinu Kohen Gadol. Because Sheshemayim Hoyo, that Rav that says that Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen Gadol and he would distribute. He would get part of Kodesh Shemayim. Tzorich Loimar, we have to say this Svirle Ki Yesh Emrim Shoy Kedushas Kohen Gadol B'fnei Atzma. We have to say like the Yesh Emrim that he has independent kedusha by himself because he was always a kohen, and that means that his Kehunah was independent and it was an aspect by itself. Ubemela. Im Rotzo Moshe Likonos L'Shoros V'Lavid Avedus Kohen Gadol. If he wanted to go in and serve this Avedus of Kohen Gadol, and he's entitled, he's a kohen. He should dress the Bigdus Kehunah Kamishkos B'Teso now. And as Tosus writes, Shalamanda Omar Zeh Bizvochem the Moshe Rabbeinu Al Vasholim Kohen Gadol, that according to this mandoma that he was a Kohen Gadol v'nishtamish b'Kehunah Gedolim Memshono, and that he served as a Kohen Gadol for 40 years. So he did have the Ches Kohen Gadol. So the Yesh Omrim who say that he was a Kohen Gadol as an independent, it's not a question that he was a Kohen Gadol, even according to the other opinion, but we're asking here where he was in the separate of being the person giving over from Hashem to Torah. He was separately a Kohen, which is a Kohen forever. Then he needs the Big Kehunah because that's his separate for a Kehunah. Avolahadeya shesvirale shaloi niska in Moshe. But according to the opinion that it was only for 7 days, the Chachomim, it doesn't mean that he was a kohen, but it meant that he served as in Kehunah. Avol kol hamemshana hoya hakahuna shabo chelik minyone b'ter mekabel aterim pi Hashem. He was also a kohen then, but his Kehunah was a part of being the recipient of the Torah from Hashem. Ubemela. Gam im nich hoye nichnas l'tzorech havoida, lo hoye tzorech lilbesh bigdei Kehunah. He didn't have to go and put on the bigdei Kehunah, even if then, because uh, he was a makabel Torah, and as a makabel Torah, you can't go start changing your clothes. He was always ready to hear the word of Hashem, and no change of garments is necessary. B'meila, shimushay b'ter koyin eino inyan b'fnei atzmei. It wasn't by himself. Elochelik mivnei aditi shebemishkan. It was part of his role of meeting up in the Mishkan. He was also a kohen. He can go into service, but he didn't need the garments because he wasn't serving in there with the garments. Lepoil Mamish, he only served in the Sayim Me'am Eluyim. Loiniskai and Moshe. Doesn't mean that he wasn't he was a kohen. He was a kohen as part of his v'neadity. What it says, Loiniskai and Moshe, Sayim Me'am Eluyim, according to the Chachamim, it means he wasn't independent as an independent kohen. It was part of the v'neadity. But he didn't need later on, if he wanted to go in, he didn't need to, because he was of an adity. That was his role, and for that he should be able to go in right away. So we can say now that in Rashi's opinion, in Torah, loy nifrat mi Moshe malosoi shu mekabel Torah, that from Moshe Rabbeinu never was taken and never separated from his advantage, Shehu Mekabel Torah, that he received the Torah Me'eis Matan Torah B'Har Sinai. When he received the Torah Har Sinai, V'gam B'Zayin Yimei Meluyim Sheshimesh Moshe, and also in the 7 days of inauguration which he served. Hoyeze Prat B'Klos Inyonei. This was a detail in his general of Mekabel the Torah. Mekabel Dvar Hashem Meis HaKadosh Baruch Hu, receiving Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'lochein Kosav Rashi, that he served all the 7 days with a white cholok. Why? And not like the kohen. Af shehizkir kvar lifnei zeh shelinyan havoida yemei hamilui hayar nubonav bailam Moshe kohen. We know that he was a kohen. Rashi already said, ki b'Moshe hoyo zerag begeder shimush. It wasn't something unique, different. A Kohen Gadol, his Kehunah, his Shimush, was part of his being a servant of Hashem, and that's why he served the Chelek Lovim, because he was still a part of the service of Hashem. Oh, the cost of Rashi beParshas Emer. The Achilas Moshe Kodesh Kadoshim Nechshevas Achilason. Rashi says there that when Moshe ate the Kodesh Kodshim, and the proof is that it's like Azar eating it. That was the proof. But Kikivon Shavedose Gam Bezayin Yimei Hamiluim Hoyso Mitzat Kabbalah Satorah Shaloi, because since even what he served in the Meimeluim, it was because of receiving the Torah. Shu moved a little mildly Yosem Minyan Hakuna Gedola, which is distinguished and higher than the Inyan Kuna Gedola. Lochein nechsheves achilosik izar. That's why it's called like a zar. Why would it be continued on zar? So the Rebbe is machadish gewaldige chiddush here that even if we can call him a zar, which was the proof that the Rebbe brought a Rashi that he's not a kohen, but here the Rebbe brought the proof that he was a kohen. It was always a kohen, but the Rebbe was machadish that he was a kohen as part of his being a Kabbalah Torah. So why would we call him a zar? Which was there? Why would Rashi call him a zar? And saying that that's why the proof that a Balmum can eat the kochi because even Moshe Rabbeinu, who was a zar, ate it. Moshe Rabbeinu is not a zar. Yes, Moshe Rabbeinu is considered a zar because his Kehunah is because a part of his of his being a Mekabel the Torah, and therefore that's considered a zar legabi de kunigdelo. Now, of course, this has to be going over again and again. It's very clear, but I'm not sure for the reader and the learner that this is something takes another pass by to at least get, and then there is a ton of ha'aris and pilpulim, which we'll leave for another time. Zayin. So what is the lesson in the service of each one? All matters of Torah are eternal. Kehunah as a lesson. And they're eternal, not maybe practically, but a lesson we have eternally. They're also the above, as we talk about Moshe. His main advantage is Torah, to listen to the words of Hashem. This is applicable, connects to the Yidden. The af mi shemi huzeh. Well, we say that Moshe Rabbeinu. How could we compare ourselves? The af shemi huzeh, quoting from the Tanya Ve'ezahu. Who is this, and who can be Asher Orav Libu Lageshes, whose heart will attempt to come close lahasig afilu chelik echad mini elef, to understand even 1,000 of 1,000 mimadreges rayim hemne, from the level of the faithful shepherd. The Rebbe says that Efes could say you, maybe a zero of an edge and somewhat of it, from Hashem's great kindness and light, shines to the Jewish people in every generation. Maybe we will merit. So we have to look what Moshe Rabbeinu was, and we have to say we will try this also in a fraction of a small part of it. That when there's a fitting time, there needs to be by everybody of the Jew, the Yidden, through the Moshe that's within him, situation which elevates him above. Even higher than service, the service and being working in the Beis Hamikdash b'dugmas Kehunah, you got to be the level of Torah. To be entirely tied and connected to the word of Hashem. Torah. Al derech Torah should be the Torah is your craft, no other things. At kol kach, to such an extent, shekol inyonim achidim. All other matters, I feel in Yonah Kedusha, even Kedusha matters, Yiyu should be al derech avodas levim b'duchona b'Yisrael b'mamodom begeder zorus etzloi. Similar, that would be similar to the Levim when they are on the Tuchen. This is holy work, Levim singing and Yisrael b'mamodom, but still they're considered to be a zar, a stranger. That's not your avodah, zorus eslam. And because their union is limud HaTorah at that particular time. Why they call Zeh through all this, we hasten the coming of our righteous Mashiach. The Kohanim b'avodosim, the Kohanim will do their service. So Levim b'duchonim, they'll be on the platform singing. Yisrael b'mamodim, the Yidden will be standing there for the korbanos. The Torah Chadosha mititates, and Torah, new Torah will come out from him. Mashiach Elama Torah is called Om Kuloi. Mashiach will teach Torah the entire people. The occupation of the whole world will be only to know Hashem. The Yidden will be great sages. They'll know hidden stuff, hidden items. They will grasp the mind of their Creator to the extent of human power. And the world will be filled with knowledge of Hashem as water covers the sea. The Sichos, Shabbos Parshas Tazria Mitzvah, Shabbos Parshas Bahar B'Chukoisai, Tovshin Mem Zayin.